Hello guys, what's up? It's Peter Sonic here once again. Um, hmm. Today I was asked to make a video about how to cope with, well, mainly yesterday, how to cope with stressful adults, stressful teachers, just someone that is an adult figure. Now, being me, I have a lot of personal experience dealing with, you know, stressful things like adults and stuff. The number one thing I'm going to tell you right now is do not try and do it with drugs. I'm not saying don't do drugs because you really shouldn't let me or anyone else tell you whether you should or you shouldn't. If you truly don't feel like you want to do like marijuana and all that, then don't do it because then you know you don't want to do it. So you shouldn't let anyone else tell you you should. If you feel like you should do it, then I guess go by all means. Just don't be blabbing about it, obviously, like an idiot. But yeah, never let me tell you or anyone else what you should and shouldn't do. My opinion should not really affect you as a person. If they do, then I guess I'm kind of glad. That means I might have taught you something. But oh well. What I'm going to tell you right now, though, is you should not go about your problems with your life trying to do it with drugs or alcohol. That's the number one thing I want to tell you before we even get really started. Is because that may look good on the surface, but as I said, only very few people can handle drugs and alcohol. I only have like maybe 5 people that I know on hand that do alcohol, and they are able to handle it. But other than that, like all the other people, you see a lot of. I mean, you see a lot of people that die because of alcohol. Not many people die from like marijuana. Okay, this isn't legal, but I'm just saying, not many people die from marijuana. They mainly die from like kind of the aspect of it. See, I always look at it like this: drugs, unlike alcohol, do not do anything physically to your body, but mentally they have a lot of bad side effects. And they say marijuana increases brain cells and LSD and all those other drugs, but I kind of don't know. I'm gonna tell you, I know only very few people that take Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I've seen people do marijuana. It's something that we probably all will see at one point. I've seen people get caught with it because they're dumb to be flashing it out in school. But those people weren't necessarily so smart. But then some people that I know that used to do it, they're smart. But I don't know. It's kind of one of those things. Like marijuana is one of those things that I go like, it doesn't really necessarily make you smarter because in reality, it actually kind of makes you worse. Because it'll have a lot of mental effects later on down the line because you'll want it so much and stuff like that. Anyway, that's the number one thing I'll tell you right now. Just don't try to take it with drugs and alcohol because that's not really what's going to help you down the line. That actually down the line, those things will start biting you in the end, and you'll kind of be like, "Damn, I really wish I just would have dealt with this shit." Um, my number one advice to deal with okay, let's say you're in school, right, and you got a teacher getting on your nerves. I'm not gonna tell you to just deal with it. What I'm gonna ask you to do is, could you just talk to that teacher? And I mean talk. Do not be going up there and start yelling and ranting and raving. Because I sometimes do that. Everyone sometimes does it at one point because there's such thing as the detention, which I guarantee you someone's gotten at least once in their life. Maybe not. I don't know. Someone's gotten at least scolded by a teacher to stop talking or whatever. It doesn't. You're never perfect. No one's perfect. So don't think that just because you might have gotten in trouble. I'm gonna tell you this right now though. If you got a problem with the teacher, ask them why you feel it. Tell them tell and don't do this in class. Do this like as some free time point. You don't have to do this in class because then you automatically you're disturbing class. So then that counts as you being a disruption. And if they can't talk to you, then fuck them. I mean, just tough it out. That's all I can tell you. Is you just gotta tough it out because you're gonna have a boss that you probably don't like, but you gotta do what that boss says. I mean, you want to get paid. It's kind of like one of those things. You just really gotta learn it that you're not always gonna be able to get what you want because we don't live in that world where you can just kind of take and give and what you want. So you really do got to learn that now, especially if you're like me in high school. You really got to learn that because you're not going to have nice bosses. You're not going to have all these things that, are on TV shows and stuff. That doesn't really happen all the time. Also, if you're really having struggle, if it's your parents, again, I recommend maybe it may be harder to sit down and talk with your parents, but if it is your parents that you might be having trouble with, just try and be better. Try and be better yourself before you try and better anyone else. That's the number thing I want to tell you is there's always two sides of an argument. And while you may feel like your side's right, and sometimes it actually is, sometimes there really is no two sides of an argument. Sometimes it's just the other guy's being an asshole. But again, there's always two sides to an argument, so make sure you know how the other person feels first. Because I know a lot of kids in school that think, oh yeah, the teachers suck and all that stuff. But I don't think so. I think it's more the rules suck. Sometimes, yeah, the teachers kind of are just being bitchy or something, and they're just kind of like, oh, being bitchy. But the rules do suck. And you can't blame the teacher following the rules because that's their job. Are you really expecting them to go against what their job says when they're getting paid? That's their source of income. You gotta remember, that's their job. They didn't make that rule. It's just how the rule is, and they have to stick to it. So when they don't stick to it and you say they suck, it's kind of like me. It's kind of like if I were to tell you. It's kind of like if you were to tell me so how to do something, even though it's probably not going to be the best rule ever, but you have to tell me to do it. And if I say I don't like it and then I tell you you suck, how are you going to feel? You're going to feel bad because you don't want to do that to that person. You really don't. You really don't. I mean, I see people that say the teachers just plain out suck because they gave me a detention. But what were you doing that got you that detention? There's always two sides of an argument. You always had to do something. There really is no teacher that I know that hasn't gotten fired or something that simply can just say, you have a detention. Just because, like, maybe you were sitting there. Like, no, that doesn't happen. Anytime I've ever gotten detention is because I absolutely did something. I did something to piss the teacher off. I didn't just sit there and act all innocent. And even if... Now, I know, like, a lot of people have teachers that also kind of get on their nerves with, like, voicing your opinion. I'm gonna tell you a little story. One of my friends got in trouble because he voiced his opinion. But, you see, the teacher felt more as he was voicing his opinion to be negative and trying to get everybody all riled up, is the quote-unquote words. And that's how I feel. That's what I'm trying to tell. That's kind of what I'm trying to point to you guys, is there's always two sides to the argument. Now, when administration takes the teacher's side, I mean, you can't really say you're surprised because they kind of have to if they want to keep having that person there. That person's not going to work there if they don't feel like the administration even respects them enough to say, okay, maybe the teacher was right. But you also got to remember, now, my friend, he did voice his opinion in the correct way. He just said, I simply think it sucks. And I'm not going to go into the whole story and say names and all that because that's not professional. He just simply said, I think this thing sucks. He didn't say sucks. He said, I just don't think it's appropriate. I can't go to the story, basically. Like, we made a paper airplane and he threw it and he got in trouble. He said, I don't think it's that huge of a deal where, and whether you think it is, whether you don't, I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe you shouldn't probably be throwing paper airplanes. I think I kind of understand now that, maybe we shouldn't have done that because it really wasn't the best thing we could have done with our time. I mean, it's kind of like you don't throw things in class. I think that's what it really was. It's not that it's a paper airplane. It's more you just don't throw things. It's like if I throw a pencil, even though it doesn't hit anyone, you don't throw pencils and you just don't do that. It doesn't really, so. But when you voice your opinion, you really gotta make sure that you do what my friend did. You gotta say, I just don't think it was appropriate for us to get in trouble. You don't have to be like, man, that's just freaking stupid. That's like the dumb, because that's when you really are in trouble. Because you can't just kind of start ranting and raving. That's not voicing your opinion. That's just being angry and saying it out loud. You know what I mean? But then, if the teacher does ask you to stop doing something, you really gotta stop doing something. Because then, at that point, you kind of are asking for it when you keep doing it. And that's where you can get into huge trouble. So that's really my huge advice. is always try to remember there are two sides to an argument if you ever having trouble with like a teacher or something. Because they might have the right idea. And maybe it's not even a teacher, maybe it's just another adult, like I said, parents. If it's your parents, try and better yourself. Try and better yourself and because sometimes parents just aren't good parents, and there's not much really to say about that. It just happens, you may not have the best parents. But if you're getting into arguments with your parents, then maybe always look at yourself. Are you doing the best that you can in your household? Are you doing good? If you're doing good, and if you know you're doing good, you're not just saying that because, well, you're just saying that because you think so, then ask your parents what the heck's going on. Ask them. And if they don't tell you, then fuck them. I mean, they're your family. You'll always love them, probably, most likely. I'm not sure. But depending on your situation with them. But you will know. I mean, again, make sure you're always doing good yourself. Because sometimes we as humans think we're always good and that we're never really in the wrong. And so we think when someone kind of tells us we did something bad, we think, oh, well, no, 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 no. We can't think like that. And that's kind of what I'm trying to learn in life, too. I'm not perfect at it either. I'm still learning it. But that's just kind of that's the road I taken. Because back in middle school, I was nowhere near who I am today. I was a brat kid who thought he was always right. Not really thought he was always right, but if he got in trouble, I thought I was like kind of like never wrong about it. But I kind of learned that there is two sides to an argument. And sometimes your side isn't right, sometimes it is. Now, I think my friend's side in that paper airplane story, I think he was definitely right. I just don't think, I think where he failed at was when the teacher just asked him to, just kind of leave it alone. He did keep going on with it, and that will automatically get you in trouble. If someone does not want to listen to it, you just kind of have to say, screw it, fuck them. That does not mean continue to be rude. That just means screw it. Tough it up. Because you're going to have a boss maybe that won't listen to. You know what a boss is going to say if you're going to say, I don't want to do that. It's too stupid. They're going to say, yeah, well, I want someone who works here. Hey, there's the door. It's kind of like you got to really learn that you're not going to always agree with everybody. But you got to cope with life. It's one of those things. Life is one of those skills. Like, life has a lot of skills that you need to cope with. And coping with frustrating adults is just one of them. You really just got to kind of tough it out. And if you truly think there's a problem between the two, you must talk it out. Unless they try to do it first. I mean, that's the number one way you handle business is you have to talk it out. And you don't fight it out. And you talk in a calm manner. And you have to try and see the other person's point of view. Do not always think your way is right. When you accept someone else's ideas, that is when you become a better person yourself. You don't need to be ranting and angry. I can't stress this enough. If you can't see the other person's point of view for what it is, then what was the point of even talking to them? That's what I'm trying to tell. That's what I'm going to tell you right now. If you can't even see what their point, what would be the point of talking to them? There would be no point. So you might as well have just kept going the way you were going. Again, try and see the other person's point of view, because you really need to do that when you are trying to cope with frustrating adults. Because adults have these weird ways of trying to tell us things. But you also got to remember, like, people like teachers are people too. They have emotions. They're not just perfect. So when they get angry because maybe... Okay, say I pissed you off. Are you going to be nice and generous towards everybody else in an angry mood? Probably not, more than likely. Me, I don't typically take out my anger on those around me. Unless you are the one who's pissing me off, then I will take it out on you. But I won't take it out on just everybody. That's a skill I literally had to learn, is you got to really just not take it out on people, because they don't deserve that. But some people, they didn't learn that as fast, or they haven't even learned it. Or some people... So I'm going to tell you this. If a teacher's ever mad at someone else, and then, you kind of start... I'm going to tell you this. Teachers don't typically get mad at anyone. The teachers I have, anyway, don't typically get mad at anyone unless someone actually is kind of breaking the rules. Otherwise, the teachers I have at my high school do not really care. They're just... Unless you start breaking the rules, then you get in trouble. But as I said, try and see the other person's point of view at first. Because maybe you might learn something. Just tough it out and always be good. I'm Peter Sonic. I'm out.